Finally getting to another garden tour. This is Erica from Flicker Hill Homestead. We are in north central Mass, zone 5B, about 150 something day season, and we have just under 80 days until our average first frost date. It's mid-July, so we're doing a lot of our late and mid-season plantings, planning for the fall, some also shorter crops, and so I thought I would show you guys what we have going on today. So over here, this is where we harvested our 400 heads of garlic. Have some pumpkins and squash happening. This first row here, or the far row on the right, that row is actually just starting to come up. That's cucumbers mostly in that row. And then I think it's a pumpkin on the end here. Over here, I believe these are Jack and Jill pumpkins. I can't really remember what I planted here. And these two rows I have not planted yet, except for at the end. There are 2 tomatillos there, 2 tomatillos on this side, and then there's some more tomatillos back there. I will show you in just a second. What I have planted are a bunch of our late season Lisianthus here in this first row, and going to hopefully get some shade cloth up there over these. They get quite a bit of sun all day long from about 5:30 a.m. until close to 5:30 p.m. So I'll probably try to get shade cloth for the midday sun over them, and I also will be fertilizing those since they just went in the ground. I'll do some foliar feeds pretty quickly here. Trying to figure out what to plant, and this is a question I've received many times, is how do I plan our fall garden? And so one of the main things here is that knowing what you need to do to condition your soil so you can plant your next crops, knowing how many days are left in your season before your first frost date, knowing what your temperatures are going to be like in the evenings. Some crops really want that cool evenings. We don't really get those here. They, our cool is in the 60s or 70s, sometimes even 80s at night. So some of the cooler crops are still a little early to start. I'm thinking about carrots down here, beets down here, things like that. But I'm also well aware of our animal pressure. And I'll probably even do another half row or so of Lizzie's down at the other end, coming back with the ones that I have left from the plugs that I ordered from Ball Seeds. The tall sunflowers you're seeing in the back here, those are branching sunflowers, and I've picked my first one. I will show you guys a picture of that. And did not prune those this year, so we'll see how they do. I've got irrigation running through each of these rows on the back. The next row over has a bunch more sunflowers, and there's some smaller sunflowers here in between the squashes. Those are Pro Cuts. They actually did grow a little taller, probably because we've had mostly rain and the sun hasn't been as strong, so they're reaching a little bit. I also planted them pretty close together, hoping to keep the flower heads pretty small. It looks like it worked, so I will show you guys what that looks like now. Okay, so first row over here, I'll get to the sunflowers in a second because I'm trying to avoid a sprinkler. The first row here, I do have some basil that I threw in here that's just seeded. I think these are mostly summer squash here. The tomatillos are finally taking off, even with the bug pressure. Keeping them really healthy, it helps with them being able to withstand the bug pressure, and actually the bugs don't like it as much. I did pick off some of those bugs as well. So in the onions, I still have some basil here, you can kind of see. And then I did a late little bunch of corn because our corn did not do very well this year. So it's really short and already having tassels. This will still shoot up a good foot or two But the shade from these trees, I think, plus the combination of the very cloudy last 6-8 weeks, I think we're close to 9 or 10 inches of rain, I think, in the last month. Could be in the last 3 weeks, actually. I'll have to double check. But this corn on the end is usually stunted, but it's a lot more stunted than normal. And then we had really bad germination over here. So I'm actually gonna plant some late pumpkins over on this side and let them kind of go wild. But even without a lot of sun, like even this pumpkin is pretty pretty stunted at this point. So the last 2 rows are Silver Queen. I'm not sure what Jay planted over here, but not ideal. I need to weed these as well. I might actually tell Jay that he gets to weed these. I weeded these 3 rows, so I figure that's pretty good. And over here you're gonna see really short corn. We've got some tassels, and we even have some of the early baby ears going. But with all of the rain, the weed pressure has been absolutely crazy. Definitely not ideal. Over here, we've got, I think that's a butternut squash. I can't remember. We've got butternut squash. I've got a long pie and a baby Pam. Baby Pam is our all-time favorite pie pumpkin. So I'm gonna let these kind of go wild right towards these. You can see these little baby pumpkins. Very, very cute. I also have some of these baby sunflowers, these Pro Cuts. Pro Cuts are about 55, 60 days or so for sunflowers, so you want to keep on seeding them. So you'll see I've got my branching sunflowers, which means all of these little suckers, if you're talking about tomatoes, will actually become cuttable in their own right. So here's one with bird poop, but as they grow, let's see here, they're starting to get a little bit of pressure. Oh, I'm not sure you guys can see this or not. It's probably the blue heron, but I can't see the neck. A little distracted there. So most of these will be ready really soon here. So these will get cut pretty much all together, and then you cut them right before they're fully open, before the when the fingers of the petals are showing around the center, and that way they don't get eaten before. So then we'll bring them inside, and then I have more of the Pro Cuts down here that are probably about 2 weeks or so behind these guys, and then I have more over there in the cut garden, which I'll show you guys as well. From a squash standpoint, most of this are pumpkins. I had summers in here, but I'm not sure. It looks like they didn't really make it, and kind of sad. Oh, it looks like this one might be, but it's not doing so hot. So we'll see how those go. Here you can see I cut the first one here, and now I've got branching coming out. They're pretty short. Hopefully we can get them going. This guy's also leaning. So excited for these guys. And this one's really tall. I might just let that bloom and let the pollinators have fun with it. You can see I did put some more squash as I'm getting soaked over here. Move away in a second here. If I can show you guys, these tomatillos there are also doing pretty well. And then I need to weed this section here, but you can see at least one of the cucumbers is up, and I'm going to let them actually go on the ground, which will help them root, and I'll cover over their vine to try to get them to root even more, which in theory will help against the vine borer because it'll have more possibilities of being healthy. Here we have just male flowers on these squash. I don't see any females yet. This is, I think this is one of the pumpkins there. And then up over here in the perennial bed, cut flower garden, the delphiniums in the front are probably too dry, which I should have known them. So a little unfortunate there. But these ones are starting to actually bloom. They're pretty small, so I haven't been picking them. But I might pick a few of them for bouquets this weekend. And then the asparagus is the wispy stuff in the back there. I've thrown in some dill all around. Verbena, which is great cut flower. I do have this space here, but it's so dry, even with all that rain. And then I've got all this gorgeous rhubarb. And a fun poppy here. It opens up during the mornings. And I've got, it's beautiful, calendula maybe? And chamomile. And if you've been watching, I keep on recutting this guy, but it keeps coming back. So we need to get some stuff for the roots, and I need to cut it because it is actually blocking our thistle that I planted back here. And I've got 3 dahlias up here on this little ridge area. I planted a bunch of other things. It looks like some stuff's sort of coming in, but again, I think it's just, I don't know, maybe too dry, I'm not sure. Because we're still getting mushrooms. Our butterfly bush is about to bloom. That's the Mexican sunflowers, it's a perennial. Lupin, hollyhock, the bee balm. It's absolutely gorgeous. And that's a good 4.5 feet tall. The peony's doing well. This feverfew is kind of fun, but really stunted over here. So I hadn't picked it. I've got Mexican forget-me-nots, I think are what these are. The bronze fennel, which is a great filler. Dill, yarrow, rudbeckia in the back there, just starting to open. A bunch of the glads, they're still falling over, which is frustrating. And the salvias between blooms there. This gorgeous hollyhock. Try to get through most things anyways. I've got a couple different types of daisies, a tansy as well. This is the first year, so I might not pick it. Shasta daisy, a whole section of basil, which I'll use for both eating and filler. Gomphrena, which I should actually start drying here. Let's see. Oh, so snapdragons. These are Mexican forget-me-nots from seed, and then there's another planting of these that are a little later. And the begonias that I planted are finally coming. They're really small, but they're beautiful. And lavender's starting to go by. More of our bee balm. I've been using these for all sorts of different things. There's 3 different colors in this mixture. Calendula. Let's see. Yeah, cut a few glads already. We've got more to cut this weekend, I think. Zinnias. The columbine is really stunted out here. Not surprising. Another begonia stunted. More short stunted. Feverfew, but I'll use those in small bouquets this weekend. The dianthus, which is a carnation, the bunnies love, so not a great idea to put on the border over here. Zinnias, some stunted snapdragons, story of my life, sedum, and some more begonias here. And, oh, this is the hyssop here. Here's one of the glads open. And actually, borage finally did show up. And then down in here, once these glads go by, the thistle should be growing up. Probably have thistle flowers in next year. From that, it's a perennial. And the liatris is starting to bloom, which is absolutely gorgeous. Nice and tall. These are probably 2.5, 3 feet tall. So, perennial garden's definitely doing pretty well. I'm happy with how it's looking like an actual garden, but it's also a functional cut bed. Over here in the cut flower beds, got they're about 37 feet long, I think, roughly. And they have roughly about 400 and something holes per bed. This one has more. This one's an extra wide. This has 6 across versus the 5 across. And I finally got some weeding in really early this morning. But there's a few things that I'm doing right now. I didn't cut my zinnias early, so or most of them, as you can kind of see, and some of them are not doing as healthy because of all the rain. So I'm actually going to use some product called Revolution, and so probably some Micro 5000 mixed in, and maybe even the BioCoat Gold for roots. We'll see, I'm not sure if I'll put that in or not, and actually use it to water these beds hopefully this weekend. I've done a foliar feed of liquid fish and seaweed fertilizer, Micro 5000 mixed in, and liquid humates. Yes, it was early yesterday morning, and so it did help on some of this stuff, but still looking a little rough. The exciting part though are some of the colors, and I am able to do cuts out of this right now. So this is one of the ones that I absolutely loved, and I didn't cut it so I could put it in the video actually. But I did a lot of oranges, which I'm excited about. And the whites are actually holding up. I think this is almost like a cream yellow. You can kind of see the yellow tones in it here. And then the really happy yellow I'm in love with. And then check out these. I mean, look at the color and the tones in that. This one and this one. I will try to put in the names of what they are. This one has that like fuchsia in the center. This is like a peachy coloring. I have a pale yellow, the creams, and the bright fun yellows. And then this was another color I was really excited about. And the normal purple, just more of like a fuchsia. These were some of my favorites from last year. So, still quite a bit, and actually I have a whole lot cut already in the house from yesterday morning that I'll be making bouquets with tomorrow. So I will come in and actually add seeds into the empty spots where the deer and bunnies ate for a late flush of zinnias. And I also have some that kind of sprawl out here. I've got snaps there, which I'll do mostly fall. Got a couple of stalk in there, still haven't gone. And then towards this end we do Lizzie's and sunflowers. And I have another set of sunflowers coming in over there. But the Lizzie's are Lisianthus, are getting to a point where they're actually budded pretty nicely. They're not really that tall, and I am losing some. I don't know if anybody watches the channel is a really strong Lisianthus grower, but what I was told was this is just because it got too dry, which is weird to me, but it could be. The black tarp is not a Lisianthus favorite, which is why I'm trying to grow some over there. But I am really hopeful on these. Supposedly you let the first bloom happen and then you snip that one off and wait for the others because it's so much more ahead. Over here's a big mess. So this was from weeding this morning, but also because I started pulling more stalk out. The stalk's getting a little bit too late at this point. I also need to come in and pull the poppies, but they're still going, which is amazing. I'll have to look back. It's been a long time having these. I absolutely love the colors. And then I'm thinking I'll dry a bunch of these for arrangements. Status. This yellow and pale pink, I guess you could say. This is actually gorgeous. The dianthus here is really short. It is not supposed to be this short. So I'm guessing it's because I started them too late in the season. And I've got sunballs here. The bunnies love these, so I keep finding them pre-cut for me in the morning, which is not ideal. The straw flowers, these are ones that you want to check the wiggle. So you can see the difference of this one. This one's still a little loose. So this one's ready to pick, I guess. So I may be drying these. The larkspur, which I wanted to call out, absolutely gorgeous, right? The rain definitely damaged it, but a bunch of these stalks I've gotten multiple cuts off of because the offshoots have been long enough for arrangements, which I never expected. I thought it'd be a one and done type situation, but most of these at some point were close to 4 or 5 feet tall, and they're still going. You can see here, this is let's see, it goes down to about here. That's probably an 18-inch stem, which is really not bad. So instead of pulling these, which I expected to be able to put in a fall crop here, I'm letting them go. The amaranth I have topped here, and they are starting to actually bud. I've had a really hard time getting these to last in vases, so I'm doing a bunch of tests this year. I'm not sure I'm going to actually put them in many arrangements unless someone specifically asks. Celosia, I think that's I'm going to get the name wrong. I think that's a coral one, more of a spear. And then over here, I'm really excited about these. These are Celosia rain. And they're just starting to come in. You can really get a good idea of them, but they are just beautifully intense. There's another straw flower on that amaranth. A bunch of straw flowers here. There's some straw flowers actually on the other side of the Celosia. And back over here, I should show you guys the asters. They were a little short. A couple of them got some height. And then the dianthus, which is also a carnation, are starting to come in up here. These ones are a little taller, a little more protected being in the middle of the beds, but not ideal. And then more Lisianthus here, and you can see I've definitely lost quite a few of them. So I did the root shield and everything else, so I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the black that they don't like, because some of them are looking absolutely beautiful. I've got some really cool colors that I'm excited to see. These were all plugs that I purchased. Here's a good amaranth. Looks like this one I didn't top by accident, so I should do that. The bells are pretty much done at this point. They kept on coming, and I'm curious if I let them just hang out for a bit, if I'll get a fall flush. So I might try that this year. Some Lizzies mixed in with amaranth and status. So here's my main section of status. There's yellows, seeker blue, I think regular blue, which is a purple basically, Forever Happy, which I believe is this one here, and there's an apricot somewhere. I'm pretty sure I planted an apricot, and then a giant marigold. So definitely doing all right over here. Starting to really look like a cut flower garden, but the funny thing about that is that a lot of cut gardens are not beautiful to look at, in the sense they are, but they don't have a ton of blooms going because you want to keep up on the cuts. So the cut and come again flowers will keep producing, so you don't want to go and have everything blooming all throughout. So overall though, I'm pretty happy with how this has come out this year. Adding that back bed definitely added a good amount of space for the Lisianthus, and adding a lot more of the perennials into the bed will help me even more next year, and then even the annuals I put in the cut bed. So I'm gonna do the greenhouse, the raised beds, and the mums in the next video. But there's a lot of changes happening over there, a lot going on, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. So it is definitely midsummer, and trying to get out here in between work and the thunderstorms and the torrential downpours has not been easy. So hopefully you guys are having decent weather where you are gardening. But one thing I will note in this video is if you have tomatoes and you are in these 3 or 4 days of finally dry weather up here in New England, make sure you are watering your tomatoes so that they're used to a certain level amount of water that we've been receiving lately, and definitely don't want to have them get stressed by being dry for a couple of days, which sounds funny, but that is one of the root causes that ends up reasons for getting blossom end rot, is really about drastic water changes. So even though, and you'll see that's why I'm watering today, as well as the transplants, even though you're like, we've had 10 inches of rain, I mean, you can tell it's actually washed away and drained off quite a bit up here on the hill. So it's something I still have to do. So thanks for watching this version of the part 1 of the garden tour for this week, for mid-July. Feel free to give me a thumbs up and like and comment on this video if there's something you wanted to see. I will be talking a lot more about our fall planting and what we're doing for seeds this week in the raised bed garden very shortly. And if you are local, we will not be at the market tomorrow, but you can always pre-order our cut flowers and pick up right here in Gardner, Mass. Thanks for watching.